Welcome back to another episode of Tea After Midnight. Just a little series where we have some tea to keep it nice and classy, but I also tell you scary stories. And tonight's story comes with a picture that has me absolutely unsettled. So grab your favorite tea and settle in, and let me tell you another scary story, because of course, this is Tea After Midnight. This story comes from Kay. Hi Savannah, I hope this email finds you well. I really enjoy your videos and I wanted to share something that happened to me last year. I've never been someone who fears or even believes in paranormal experiences. That only started to change when my mom began taking courses to become a shaman. She has always claimed to sense or see things, but I never believed her. I assumed it was just her mind playing tricks. That is until things started happening in our home. At first it was only my mom experiencing these things. One night while she was home alone, she said she heard loud footsteps moving back and forth between our bedrooms from downstairs, which are right next to each other. It frightened her so much that she ended up sleeping on the sofa downstairs. Another time, she was standing in the hallway near the front door, facing a mirror. The downstairs bathroom was behind her. In the mirror, she noticed something in her peripheral vision. Something she described as human, but distorted, almost like it had a strange filter over it. When she focused on it, a painting I had made, one that had been hanging in the same spot for months, suddenly fell. Because of where it landed, it blocked the bathroom door completely. At the time, I brushed it off as a coincidence, assuming she was overthinking things because of her course. But then things started happening to me. It only ever occurred at night, after I had fallen asleep. I would wake up suddenly in a panic with thoughts that didn't feel like my own, almost as if someone was speaking directly into my mind. The thoughts were extremely vivid and specific. For example, I would wake up thinking, there is something sitting under your desk. It has long limbs and a long neck. It's smiling and it wants you to be afraid. Do not let it know you're awake. I would lie there completely frozen, pretending to be asleep, absolutely convinced that something was in my room. These episodes happened every single night. On top of that, the room would feel like it was spinning, similar to the sensation of lying down while extremely drunk. This took a serious toll on me, both mentally and physically. I struggled in college because I was barely sleeping. There were times I went 2 or 3 days without sleep, not because I wasn't tired, but because I was too afraid to fall asleep. The final incident was the most intense. One night at around 3:20 a.m., I had been downstairs in the living room, binge-watching The Office. I went upstairs to grab my phone charger, and to get upstairs you have to pass through our long kitchen. At the far end, there's a couch. In the middle is the entrance to the living room where I was, and at the other far end, the hallway door, which was where I needed to go. After getting my charger, I walked back down into the kitchen. The kitchen lights were off, and when I looked down the far end, I suddenly see a figure standing upright on the couch at the far end. It was too dark to make out any features, but I was certain in the moment it was a person. We stood there for what felt like a full minute, just staring at each other, until it leaped off the couch and sprinted toward me. I ran as fast as I could back into the living room, barely managing to slam the door shut. I called my mom in a panic and crying, convinced there was someone in the house trying to attack me. While on the phone, I turned on the living room light so I could see into the kitchen. I grabbed one of the fireplace tools for protection and slowly went back to turn on the kitchen lights. There was nothing there. I searched the entire house, but still, no one was there. I checked every door and they were all locked. There was no way somebody got into the house. Plus, I live in a very small village in the middle of nowhere. At the time, I didn't even think of this as paranormal because of how real and vivid it felt. I later drew what I had been seeing and showed it to a woman my mom brought in to cleanse the house. Forewarning, I'm inserting the picture now. When she saw the drawing, she said it looked exactly like what she had sensed was inside the house after walking through the house. She even got chills at how accurately I had drawn it. After she cleansed the house, everything stopped. None of us have experienced anything like it since. So there are definitely a few things that I want to touch on this story. The first one's going to be when you would go to sleep. And every single night this happened. You would go to sleep, but you would wake up in a panic, feeling like somebody had spoke something to you, and you woke up and it was extremely vivid and specific. Like you said, for example, you would wake up thinking there is something sitting under your desk. It had long limbs and a long neck. It's smiling and it wants you to be afraid. Do not let it know you're awake. I have chills just reading that, because what do you mean that you would wake up and you would think something that specific, that something with a long neck, long limbs is under your desk, it's smiling at you, I've got chills again, and it wants you to be afraid, so don't let it know that you're awake. That absolutely sends chills down my spine. My whole body is in full chills right now. But this didn't just happen one night. This kept repeatedly happening. And I'm so sorry you went through that, because I don't even know what I would do the first time that would happen. I wouldn't know what to do. But to feel that way, I can just imagine the pure terror that you felt every night that you woke up. But next, let's talk about this picture right here. This picture is pure evil. Looking at this, it has me so unsettled right now. I don't even know what this is. If anybody in the comments knows, please let us know. But this just looks like pure, absolute evil. And I absolutely could not imagine being in your position, seeing this thing, not only just seeing it, but it then running at you. But looking at this, it just absolutely sends shivers down my spine, and it freaks me out. And I'm so sorry that you saw that. But I really hope that you're not seeing it now. From the story, it sounded like after the house was cleansed that you haven't had any more experiences. So I pray that stays the same way. I do want to say thank you so much for sending in your story. But again, I am so sorry that you went through that. And if anybody in the comments has any idea of what this thing in the picture is, please let us know. But that does conclude this episode of Tea After Midnight. If you have any personal scary stories you want to share, I would love to read them. You can email me at the email on the screen or the email in the caption of this video. But as always, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have the best night. I love you, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
Let's talk about the ghosts in my house. If you're not new here, then you know I make videos constantly about my experiences in my house for years and years regarding paranormal activity in varying degrees. But it has gotten significantly worse since I've started making content like this for obvious reasons. And I recently made a video about my fan that I just got installed in my bedroom, and it just like randomly turning on and turning off in the middle of the night, like while I was laying awake, but still just like out of nowhere. And all the comments I got were totally fine, and I started to believe them because it was like, since there's a remote, it connects to the lamp and whatever, sometimes it'll malfunction and just turn on and turn off. I don't believe anybody anymore, okay? I was laying in bed the other night and it literally didn't even turn on. It didn't even make a noise, because when the fan turns on, it makes a noise. The fan just started moving. And I don't mean like turned on, it just spun in a circle one time maybe, and then it just stopped. And this is so terrifying. I hate talking about my dreams because I lucid dream all the time, but lately I've been like waking up and seeing things, not sleep paralysis, like seeing things, and I thought I was going crazy. Oh my god, and this is so horrifying. I don't sleep on my back for this specific reason, and now that it's happened to me, I will never sleep on my back again. I've just been like feeling like there is someone in my room at night lately. I swear to god, I was thinking about how if I open my eyes, there's gonna be someone in front of my face. And pardon my French, but there was someone right fucking here. To the point where I screamed and I put a pillow over my head, thinking that there was like a real person who had broken into my house and just was like, for shits and giggles, right here. And then obviously when I open my eyes, again, he's not there. And that has never happened to me before. I don't hallucinate. I don't see things. That was the first time, and it scared the shit out of me. And if you've been here a long time, then you know I normally don't swear in my videos, so that should give you cause that it was actually a very terrifying experience. So I will no longer be taking any advice about my fan in my bedroom or anything going on in my house. Thank you, goodbye.
I think we may have actually captured a photo of La Llorona. But quick little backstory before I show you guys the photo. This story was submitted by Vivian. I went ahead and tagged her. One night, Vivian's husband and her cousin were up late playing with the Xbox. Vivian's husband was at home with her and her cousin was at his house. They were both just sitting there talking through the mic when they both decided to go outside and smoke a cigarette. At which point, Vivian's husband decided to call her cousin through FaceTime. So as they're out there smoking a cigarette, just talking back and forth, Vivian's cousin notices that his cat is acting weird. His whole body's like hunched over. I'll show you guys a picture. And the hairs in the back of his neck are like standing up. He figures that probably a dog got into his yard, so he decided to walk down towards the driveway to see if he could see anything. But of course, he couldn't see anything. At which point, he heard a woman scream. His first instinct was to drop to the ground right on his stomach and start crawling towards his house. I mean, he was terrified. Crazy part about the whole thing was that Vivian's husband, who was on FaceTime with him, did not hear the scream. Once her cousin got back to the porch, he told her husband what happened and decided to flip the camera in the direction that the scream came from. Her husband, of course, could not see anything but decided to take a screenshot of the scream. This is when they finally saw what her cousin had heard. Now I'm going to show you guys the first initial photo she sent me, and then I'll show you guys the lightened version. Now this is the first one she sent me. You can see there the silhouette of something standing there. Now this is the more lightened version where you can really start to make out something just there. Now here's when I started to get really creeped out. I mean, this is a legit woman standing there with a veil on her head, screaming in the middle of the night. And here's another close-up. I mean, you can clearly make out a face beneath the veil. What do you guys think?
Welcome back to another episode of Tea After Midnight. Tonight's episode's gonna look a little bit different. I'm collaborating with a sweet friend of mine who is a criminologist. Her name is Brooke, and she talks about true crime cases here on TikTok. So tonight, she's going to be reading one of the stories that you guys sent to me, and I'm going to be talking about a true crime case that she told me about. I highly recommend you go over there after this video and listen to that story because it's a good one. So with that being said, grab your favorite tea and settle in, and let me tell you about Elisa Lam. Let's start off by talking about who Miss Elisa Lam was. She was a 21-year-old college student from Vancouver, Canada, solo traveling to visit California in 2013. Elisa checked into the notorious Cecil Hotel located in downtown Los Angeles. As I'm sure most of you know, the Cecil Hotel has been known to have their fair share of criminals and even serial killers stay within their walls, which really only adds to the mystery of what happened to Elisa Lam. Elisa was last seen on the hotel's elevator camera footage on January 31st, 2013. I'm going to insert a portion of the video footage here so you can see why this footage became viral. And as you can see, it appears by Elisa's body language that she seems to be frightened by something. You can also see her pressing multiple buttons on the elevator as well as peering in and out of the elevator quickly, almost as if she was scared of something or someone out there. So when this footage was released by the LAPD, it was spread everywhere, and everyone had an opinion or a theory as to what happened to Elisa. So a few of these theories included paranormal activity, that someone was following or in pursuit of her, the hotel being haunted, or even a mental health crisis. So many of these theories came to light because of the hotel's dark past, which, like I said, included death, crime, and even serial killer connections, which really only amplified the mystery of what happened to her. So several weeks after her disappearance, there were several hotel guest complaints about the low water pressure and the strange tasting and discoloration to the water. A maintenance worker was sent to the hotel's roof to check the water tanks. And on February 19th, 2013, that's when they discovered Elisa Lam's body in one of the water tanks with her clothes not on her body, but instead floating next to her. And when the discovery was made known to the public, that's when the mystery intensified and everyone had questions. How did she get to the rooftop? How did she get into the water tank? And whether or not somebody else was involved. So ultimately, her death was ruled an accidental drowning with bipolar disorder listed as a significant factor. Elisa was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and she was prescribed several medications, including antidepressants, antipsychotics, as well as mood stabilizers. And it was noted in the toxicology report that at the time of her death, she did have traces of some, if not all, of her medication in her system, but it was lower than the amount that she was prescribed, which in turn could mean that she was under medicating, which could have led to a psychotic or manic episode. Investigators found no evidence of physical assault or trauma to her body, and there was no clear evidence of another person being involved. And if I'm not mistaken, there were 3 fire escapes and 1 stairwell that led to the roof of the hotel that could have possibly been used to gain access to the roof where the water tanks were located. And there were also ladders up there that could have been used to get on top of the water tanks, which could explain how she got up there in the first place. But honestly, my mind keeps going back to this camera footage that was released of her in the elevator and how the doors remained open for a longer duration of time than honestly you would expect. And I know she hit random buttons on the elevator, so it could explain why the door stayed open longer than you would expect. But how her demeanor was, on top of that, the hand movements and the arm movements that she was making, and also the peeking into the hallway, almost as if something was out there trying to get to her and she was trying to see where it was. It just gives me an eerie feeling. But you guys in the comments let me know what your thoughts are on this case and what you think happened to her in that elevator. And be sure to go check out Brooke's page where she reads the scary story that one of you guys sent. And I'll also be reading that story here on my page next week. But that does conclude this episode of Tea After Midnight. If you have any personal stories, paranormal or otherwise, that you'd like to send, I would love to read them. You can email me at the email on the screen or the email in the caption of this video. But as always, you guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for 900K. We just hit 900K before I started filming, and my heart is beyond full. So thank you so much for being here. You mean the world to me. I hope you have the best night. I love you, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
Honestly, might be the scariest story that I've ever read. If you're new here, hi, I do talk about pretty scary stuff, and I have an email where anyone finds a page can send me their ghost stories. I do use the phrase a lot, this is the scariest story that I've ever heard, but this came with photo evidence, so it by default is the scariest story. I think the most horrifying thing about this specifically is the fact that it didn't happen at home. It happened while this person was at work. So let's get into it. The person who sent me the story did not specify whether or not they wanted to remain anonymous. So for obvious reasons, I'm going to keep them anonymous. The girl who sent me this says that she was working a retail job about 2 years ago in this very small town in Hawaii. And the management team for this storefront was 2 supervisors, which included the person that sent me this email, 1 assistant manager, and 1 manager. These were the only 4 people in the entire store that would have a key to the back room for the safe. I do want to point out that at the beginning of this email, the girl who sent me this says that immediately since she started working there, she was experiencing some pretty weird things happening. It wasn't enough to say like it was paranormal. She just thought it was a coincidence. Anyways, the way that it would go is there would be a supervisor scheduled to come in before anybody else shows up to go to the back, get the money, set up the register, 30-ish minutes before an associate would come and start their shift. So the supervisor would be alone in this building for about 30 to 45 minutes before anybody else got there. And everybody felt like this back room where the safe was just gave everybody like a really off-putting feeling. This safe is located near the dressing rooms, but in order to get to the safe, you have to go past the dressing rooms a little bit and into the room with the safe that has 2 mirrors facing each other. If you're not familiar with what that means, it has been said that if 2 mirrors are facing each other in a room, it creates a portal, specifically a spiritual portal that can allow entities to just freely roam in your space. Anyways, there was a supervisor scheduled to open that morning. She goes in, she walks back there, and she hears something that makes her stop dead in her tracks. Mind you, this is early enough in the morning where there should be nobody else in the store. She heard a door to the changing room open and slam shut by itself, because if you have been to a retail store before, you know that you need a key to get into a changing room. Calls out, nobody's there. So the woman who is opening the store and hears the door close calls out again and says, is anyone there? As she says this, the door to the changing room again opens and slams shut. The craziest part is she can vividly remember hearing the lock click as the door is opening and shutting. Now, obviously, she feels like there is a real person breaking in or who has stayed overnight in the store alone. And now she is alone with them. So she shuts the door to the room with the safe and the mirrors facing each other and just waits for an associate to get there. Here's the thing though, associates don't have keys to the store and the store wasn't unlocked. So when one of the girls showed up, she called her supervisor and was like, hey, the door's not open. What's going on? The supervisor gained enough courage, swung the door open and booked it to the front door, opened the door, went outside, and they called the mall security. When mall security got there, they checked the entire store and there's no one there. The other paranormal experience that was attached in this email was about the person who sent me this email opening the store and hearing at the same area, around the changing rooms, a little child whisper, loud enough for her to hear, but not loud enough to know what the child said. She looked around and there was, again, nobody there. The manager of the store had the bathroom door slammed shut on her when she was washing her hands. And it got so bad that the person who sent me this email had to either call or FaceTime somebody every single time that she was alone in the store, especially in the back of the store, because of how scared she got. And y'all, when I tell you that the photo that she attached is just so horrifying, this was the final straw. She is back in the safe room with another person as they're gathering money. The entire time, the person who sent me this email is staring at her feet. Like, she is not looking up. She does not want to make contact with these mirrors facing each other, nothing. As she's staring at her feet, she notices that there is a small and dirty footprint on the floor of the store. Immediately takes a picture of this footprint, leaves, goes to her meeting, tells the district manager that they need to have the store blessed, and right after it was blessed, things started to calm down, but the person who sent me this email left not long after. And y'all, please, this photo, and y'all, like, are we serious? Horrifying.
I got my snacks, so get yours, baby. Y'all will never unbake y'all bags fucking with me. Well, this actually happened in DR. Person that submitted this story, their grandma, the story is really from their grandma's hometown. So in DR, the hometown that they're from is called San Felipe. That's where her whole family's from. Anyway, back in the day in that town, there was a lady that was known for voodoo. People, like everybody, feared her and stayed out her way because they know not to mess with her. This was like a known thing. Like the kids wouldn't even play close to her house. None of that. So anyway, one day, one of the family members that lived around like the town, they were having somebody coming from the States to DR to visit them for like, I think it was like 2 weeks. Yeah, it was 2 weeks. I don't know why Miguel didn't get, that's the person that visited, that's the family member. His name's Miguel. Miguel, like nobody told him about the lady. And I feel like it's because they felt like they shouldn't have told him. At the same time, like, give him a heads up. Anyways, Miguel was born here in the States. So he didn't really know, like he knew about his culture. He spoke Spanish, of course, but he didn't know how deep that it goes back like in your hometown. So one afternoon, Miguel decided that he's going to go take a walk. And so he does. And not knowing that that's that lady's house, he takes a walk and he walks past the lady. The lady happened to be sitting on her porch. And so he's walking past and the lady's just looking at him walk past. And for some reason that bothered Miguel. Miguel like looked back at her kind of like, what are you looking at? Miguel was on the phone too. I forgot to mention that part. So when he walked past and the lady was looking at him and all of this happened while he's on the phone. And so when Miguel looks at him with the look like, what you looking at? He says on the phone like, yeah, some old lady just keeps staring at me. And he says it in English. Now, you know, like if you visit out there and you know your language, try to avoid English as much as possible for your safety. But Miguel didn't do that. So the lady's like, okay, you're one of them spoiled little kids from the States. Bet, I'm gonna teach you a lesson. That's all it took. It only took Miguel to give a look and say who she thinks you're talking to. I mean, who she thinks you're looking at. You know, you get it. Everything's fine. Miguel goes home. He goes to sleep. He wakes up in the morning and he wants to go outside. And the moment he opens the front door, he sees a doll. There's a doll sitting in front of the door. The doll looks exactly like him, wearing exactly what he's wearing. So he's like, there's got to be some kind of sick joke. Like, who think they funny? And he grabs the doll. He goes around to his family members like, who did this? Who did this? And the entire family's like, nobody did that. Like, why would we be like, no, we didn't do this. And so he goes to his grandma like, they playing a game with me and they don't want to tell me that they're playing a game with me. And when grandma saw the doll, grandma was like, where did you get that? He's like, yeah, it was at the front door. Grandma's like, he looks exactly like you. He's like, yeah, I know, I get it. That's the joke. Grandma's like, this is not a joke. Drop that thing right now. And she slaps it out of his hand. Grandma instantly starts interrogating him. Who did you speak to? Did you speak to anybody? Because, again, grandmas be knowing. He almost even forgot about it, but he remembered and he told grandma about the lady. And the grandma started asking him, was the lady wearing this? Is she this? Are these her facial features? To figure out if that was the lady that was known in the town. And he's like confirming everything. And grandma's like, oh my God. Like, what did you say to her? He's like, I didn't say anything to her. I just like was wondering why she was looking at me because she kept staring at me. And instantly, grandma knew. So grandma immediately went and got help, got some of the family members together to tell them what happened. Everybody's like, oh shit, like why? You don't know the custom around here and you come here walking around asking people why are they staring at you, like giving people attitude. So everybody got on his ass about it. And now he's scared. He's terrified because he didn't know it went this deep. As the day is going past and everybody's talking about it and they trying to figure out a way, like they're trying to figure out if they need to go to her, but nobody wants to go to her because they're that scared of her. They start to notice that Miguel's skin is starting to turn gray. And the more his skin started turning gray, the more his breath started being short. And that's when they realized, like, oh, we probably don't have no time. We need to do something now. One of the family members calls up his pastor. His pastor comes over to pray on him because at this point, like, he's starting to get bad. And the pastor is praying and praying and praying, but nothing's happening. Like, he's not getting better. At this point, he's really having trouble breathing. And so somebody says, like, we have to go over there and apologize on behalf of him and let her know that he's not from out here, so he doesn't know how it works. So they agree on that. They go over to the lady's house. They knock on her door. She comes out and they immediately start apologizing. And she's just staring at them the whole time. Like each and every one of them are apologizing. The boy's over there gray and can't breathe. And so once they're done, they're like, so are you going to forgive him? Like, the lady looks at them and was like, it's too late. And she closes her door and went back inside. They knew better not to stay. They knew they had to go. After she closes her door, get off her property. So they went back home. Pastor is still praying and praying and praying and praying. He prayed damn near all night. And then everybody decided to have a break and go to sleep. And they all surround him, you know, to make sure that he's okay. They didn't take him to the hospital because they know what was up. They knew the hospital wasn't gonna be able to save him. And so in the morning, when everybody wakes up, Miguel is gone. He's gone. He has disappeared. No doors were open. No windows were open. He was just not on the bed anymore. Mind you, people surrounded him. They were next to him while they were sleeping. But he's not there. But you know what was there? That same doll. That same doll that he found the first time was sitting right in the same spot that he was laying in. And y'all want to know the even crazier part? No one ever found Miguel ever again. No one dared to try to question the lady about it because they don't want to end up like Miguel.
I got an Appalachian story in my email, and that might be one of the craziest Appalachian stories I have ever heard. Tonight's submitter did tell me I could use her real name, and her real name is Stacy, and she will be tagged in the description. So Stacy goes on this hike. Nothing crazy. She had been on this hike before during the day, but she's on this hike, and suddenly she loses track of time. Boom. It's pitch black outside, and she looks down at her phone, and her phone is only at 3% battery, and there's no signal. So she figures that she'll just go straight until she ends up hitting a road. Big mistake, because she didn't end up hitting a road. She ended up going deeper into the woods. She said something felt off, like the trees weren't right. Like they had been growing in pain, were her exact words. She kept hearing these sounds, not animals, not wind, like something was whispering, and she heard this metal clicking sound. Then she starts hearing what sounds like wind chimes, but not regular wind chimes. It sounds like they're made out of bone and they're off tune. At this point, she's like, I don't understand where the sound is coming from, but I need to get out of here. So she continues to walk, but then she sees something through the trees. It's this pale light blue light. So she's like, oh great, a campsite, maybe somebody can help me. So she starts walking towards it and she starts to see people, or what she thinks are people. She starts to realize very quickly that these people don't look right. They're wearing old nightgowns, they're very dirty, and it looks like there's blood on them. Then she gets even closer and she's like, oh my God, their faces are wrapped in gauze and their hands are all red. At this point, she just stops and she observes for a second because she's like, I have no idea what's going on here. She observes and she realizes that they are operating on something, literally operating on something. There's someone laying on a table made of wood and bone, and she's just staring at this point when suddenly one of those people looks up at her. They look directly at her and she swears she couldn't see eyes, but she knew that they were staring at her. And then she heard a whisper. At first she doesn't know what it's saying, but then she realizes what it said, and it said, "You're early. We can begin." So she just books it. She didn't care where, she just started running. This absolutely terrified her. And as she's running, this dog appears out of nowhere. It was just standing there in the middle of the path, black as night, glowing eyes, making no sound whatsoever. So she thinks this dog is going to attack her, so she gets scared again and she starts backing away very slowly, and then she turns around and blinks and she's in a different part of the woods. It's like she teleported. But that dog, it was still behind her, but she didn't hear it move. No panting, no pause, no breath. She started running again because she's like, I have to get out of these freaking woods. She's absolutely terrified at this point. But every time she runs, she stops. She doesn't see anything. And then she hears those wind chimes again. And then she turns and she looks and she sees the dog again. She's not giving up at this point. So she starts running again and she stops again, except for this time she doesn't hear wind chimes. She hears something like, it sounds like someone is blowing through some type of horn, or like she describes it as like she thought someone is blowing through a bone. Like that's what she was picturing in her head. Like a loud horn that sounded like a bone. She says she's not really sure how to describe it or how she knew this. It's something that she pictured in her head, but like she heard it. It was loud and it was clear. So she's just standing there at this point in complete disbelief, and she's terrified out of her mind because she doesn't know how she's going to get out of these woods. And as she's thinking all of these thoughts and hearing this sound through this like horn, she hears a whisper, and it says, "You're almost there. Let us open you up." This scared her out of her ever-loving mind. So at this point, she starts praying, and she's actually praying out loud, and she's saying, God, the universe, someone, can you please help me? Like, I don't understand what's going on. I need to get out of here. Suddenly, she's alone again, and it's just her in the dark, but it's very, very dark. Finally, she breaks through the trees, and she sees a road, but it's not a road that she recognizes. It's stretched forever in both directions. No signs, just blacktop and trees. So at this point, she's trying to think rationally, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna walk until I see a car, or a car passes me. And suddenly a car does pass her, but it doesn't stop, even though she's waving her arms. She screamed too, but they didn't even glance or slow down. Then she hears footsteps behind her again, and then she turns around, but there's nothing there. So she turns back around and she sees this woman, but she's wearing a wedding dress. This woman is just standing on the side of the road, not moving, and she looks very pale, and she said that her eyes looked very sad. She does think it's a little weird that she's wearing a wedding dress and she's on the side of the road, but she's like, it's a person. Hopefully this person can help me and tell me where to go. So she asks her for directions, and she's like, hey, am I going in the right way? I'm trying to get out of these woods and to this certain spot. And the lady goes, yes, you're going the right way. And so she thanks her, and the lady smiles at her. So Stacy turns around, and then Stacy turns back around really quickly to ask her another question, but the woman is gone. I mean, she said that there's no trace of this woman. There wasn't even footprints in the dirt where she was standing. But she turns around and she starts walking in the direction that the woman told her, and eventually she sees lights in the distance of a town. So at this point, she's like, thank God, familiar streets, street lamps, houses. And eventually she does get home, but she still doesn't know what happened out there. And different people have told her that people have gone missing out in those woods. Some were found wandering roads miles away, talking about a woman in white. She also found out that other people had exclaimed that they had seen this black dog in the woods and that they had heard wind chimes in the trees. Everyone that she talked to said that if this ever happens to you again, if you see something, no, you didn't. If you hear something, no, you didn't. Which Stacy says this is nearly impossible for her to do. She was only gone for 2 hours, but it felt like an eternity. Only 2. But she also thinks that whatever was out there knew she was coming. Stacy says that she's never told anybody the story in fear of people not believing her, but that she trusts my community and that she knows that we will believe her. And I do believe her. And the crazy thing is that you don't believe something this crazy until it happens to you. I was talking to Jack. Do you guys remember Jack, the story that I told about the guitar and he apparently sold his soul to the devil? He was telling me that he didn't believe in the paranormal at all until what happened to him happened. And that now he can't even watch some of my stories because they scare him so much, because he now fully believes in the paranormal. And this is one of those stories where if you believe in the paranormal, it's hard to listen to because it's terrifying. One thing that I want to know about this story is what the hell those people were doing out there operating on somebody. It looked like some body to her, like a human being. So what the heck do you think that was? Because that part really got me and terrified me. The whispers scared me too, but like that part was the scariest part to me. I don't know about you guys, but please weigh in on this because I would love to know what you think that is. And anything you have to say about the story, please be respectful, but drop it in the comments because so much to unpack here. But with that being said, I'm now going to do my favorite part, which is the shout outs. Annabeth.chase753. You left such a sweet comment underneath one of my videos and I truly appreciate it. You said, thank you for sharing these stories. Please don't ever stop. and I will never stop. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being a part of this little community. Thank you for commenting and saying that, because it really meant a lot to me to hear that. Someone told me today, if you ever feel down, Kaisa, go look at your comment section. And that almost made me cry, because I was like, that's so true. I have the most genuine, kind people in my community, and I cannot thank you guys enough. It literally brings tears to my eyes when I think about it. You guys have done so much for me emotionally, you have no idea. So thank you for being one of those people, and I love you. Carmen Lily 7 is my next shout out. Thank you so much for your sweet comment. Again, same thing goes to you. Thank you so much for brightening up my day. Thank you for leaving a comment and pushing out my videos. Thank you for watching my videos. Again, I would not have this page without people like you, and it means so much to me, and I cannot show you my appreciation enough. So thank you. I love you. And my name is Kaisa, and I tell true scary stories on here every single night that you guys submit to me. So if you're into that, hit that follow button, and I just need you to do 3 things for me. And what are those? I need you to keep sending me your scary stories, long ones preferably. What's the second one? Have a safe night. And the third one, say it with me, have a spooky night. I wish I could hear you all say that with me. I love you guys so, so much. Spooky kisses and haunted hugs.
Imagine waking up in the middle of the night and seeing a tall, shadowy figure standing over your sibling. That is exactly what happened to the viewer who submitted this story. If you're new here, I'm Krista, and on my account I tell spooky stories either found on the internet or submitted to me. This story is about something that happened to me and my sister when we were teenagers. This started when we moved to Arkansas after our house burned down. We ended up living in a small trailer in a rural area near a town called Greer's Ferry. The trailer sat in a hollow with a bluff and a creek behind it, and there was woods all around us, even caves nearby. At the time, I was 15 and my sister was 16. We shared the master bedroom and the old double-wide trailer. Our twin beds were on opposite sides of the room, with a set of French doors leading into the bathroom between us. There were closets on the other wall and dressers at the foot of our beds, with a small TV sitting on mine. At first, things were just strange. We would hear odd noises in the room at night. But eventually, the activity started getting worse, especially between 3 and 5 in the morning. Our closet doorknobs would start rattling violently, like someone was trying to force them open from the other side. Sometimes, our beds would start shaking so hard it felt like someone was underneath them, grabbing the mattress and shaking it from below. Whenever one of us ran over to the other's bed, the shaking would suddenly stop. We were terrified, but our mom refused to believe us. She said we were just imagining things, so we tried our best to ignore it. But the activity kept escalating. Things would fly off the bathroom counters like someone had thrown them. The DVD player would randomly power on and off, and the tray would slide open and shut on its own. Sometimes we even heard low whispering in the room. One night we had a friend staying over, and all 3 of us saw a small shadow move quickly across the floor. That was the moment we knew we weren't imagining things. But the worst night happened not long after. My sister was asleep in her bed, and I suddenly woke up to the sound of low murmuring in the room. At first I thought I was still dreaming, but then I looked toward my sister's side of the room. In the dim light, I saw something standing over her bed. It was a tall, dark figure, and it wasn't alone. There were several smaller shadow figures standing around it. The main figure was so tall that it had to hunch down to fit under the ceiling. Its body looked skeletal, like black skin stretched tightly over bones. Its limbs were long and thin, and its eyes seemed to glow in the dark. I grabbed my phone and started texting my mom and calling her room, but she kept telling me to go back to sleep because she thought I was just dreaming. Finally, I managed to yell loudly enough to wake my sister up. Right as she woke up, the tall figure slowly turned its head and looked directly at me. I've never felt fear like that before in my life. When my mom finally came into the room, the figure was gone. She still insisted that I had just had a nightmare. But a few days later, my sister admitted that she had seen the same figure in our room before. She just hadn't told me because she didn't want to scare me. Eventually, we moved away to Michigan, and for a while, I believe whatever had been in that trailer was gone. But years later, when I was 20, something happened that made me question that. I had just gotten home from the hospital with my newborn daughter. One night, I happened to glance toward the glass door that led out to the garage. And for just a moment, I saw a tall, dark figure standing on the other side of the glass, watching me. Not long after that, I woke up with a burning sensation on my arm. My mom looked at it and saw a large red handprint wrapped around my arm. The fingers were so long they nearly touched each other. It was much bigger than anyone's hand in the house. After that, neither my sister nor I ever saw the figure again. But the story didn't completely end there. Years later, my ex started living with my mom and my grandmother. He suddenly began having severe night terrors and sleep paralysis, something he had never experienced before. One night, he finally described the figure from his nightmares, and my sister and I felt our stomachs drop. Without ever hearing our story, he described the exact same tall skeletal shadow figure we had seen years earlier in Arkansas. After that, he began practicing spiritual protection to try to keep it away. Thankfully, no one else has seen it in about 2 years now. But even today, I still wonder if that thing was following us the whole time. This one terrifies me so bad. Just the idea that this figure followed you to a completely different state as well. Absolutely not. The fact that you all experienced the same thing without telling each other too is absolutely wild. If you guys have any stories you'd like me to read, please email them to me and I will get to them if I can. I will see you in the next one.
This true scary story has a massive trigger warning. And when I say massive, I mean the biggest trigger warning I have given you guys yet. This is also only for 18 years and older. If you cannot deal with DV or any type of V at all, then please scroll past this. And by the way, this is exactly why you should not play with Ouija boards. I also want to take this time to remind you to subscribe to mine. The link is in the bio. I tell stories on there that I do not tell on here every few days, so watch out for that. Also, if you want to send me your true scary story so I can recount it on here, my email is in my bio. It's kaisaspooky@gmail.com. Okay, let's get started. So this submitter's name was Sarah, and Sarah was born in the 80s in the state of Virginia. In the state of Virginia in the 80s, you are not allowed to go to daycare unless you were potty trained. And at the time, she was 6 weeks old, so she obviously was not potty trained yet. So her parents both worked, and so they had to find someone to take her in. Well, her mom's sister had a best friend named Gloria, and Gloria had a little daycare at her house and she took care of kids, and she was highly recommended because she was really good to these kids. So that is where they decided to take Sarah. Now Sarah was really well taken care of. Gloria was great to her. Every single time her parents picked her up, she was happy, healthy, she was just great. They loved her. The only weird thing that they thought about the situation is they didn't really like her husband Tim. They said that he was a little off. He was a little quiet, quirky, but they thought that maybe he was just like quiet, just a quiet person. So they kind of ignored it. And they ended up getting really close to Gloria because Sarah's mom's sister was close to her. So those three couples started hanging out a lot. Sarah's parents, her aunt and uncle, and Gloria and Tim. So these three couples are hanging out a lot for about a month or two. And one day, Tim suggests that everybody plays with a Ouija board. And Sarah's mom at the time, who she told me had not found God yet, decided that, yeah, this would be a fun idea. Let's all do it. So they all started playing with the Ouija board. They did it about 2 or 3 times and nothing really happened until one day Gloria comes to Sarah's mom and she says to her, listen, something really weird is going on. Tim is playing with this Ouija board every single night all by himself. Like, he is sitting in our room alone playing with this Ouija board, and he's telling me that he's talking to some alien. And she says he also told me that the alien's name is Rodentalk. That is what the Ouija board has told him. And Rodentalk wants to show himself to Tim, and he wants to do it on top of a mountaintop. So they decide that they're going to go to this mountaintop so that Rodentalk can show himself to Tim, and the others want to see it as well. So they actually ask Sarah's mom if she can babysit all of the kids while they go and do this. So they go and they do this. They come back and they say nothing happened. Now, even though they didn't see anything that night, I believe that something did present itself. They just did not see it because this is the start of a nightmare. So although nothing presented itself, Tim is still obsessed with this Ouija board, and it's all he does every single day. He just sits in his room and he plays with the Ouija board by himself. One day, Sarah's mom goes to drop her off to Gloria's house so that she can get babysat. Gloria comes to the door, she opens the door, and she does not look well. And she says to Sarah's mom, listen, I am so sorry, but you are going to have to find a different babysitter because I have to get a job. At the time, she did not have a job, so she was at the house with Tim all day. Not sure what their situation was, but she didn't have a job. She said, I need to get my kids out of here. I need to get out of here. There is something very wrong with him. All he does all day long is sits in the corner and plays with this Ouija board, and it's starting to become alarming. So I'm very sorry, but I can't watch Sarah anymore. And although Sarah's mom is upset about this because she needs to find a new babysitter, she's also really concerned for her friend Gloria because they have now become close. It's important to note that Tim and Gloria had 3 kids. They had 2 biological children, one 9-year-old son and one 5-year-old daughter. They also had a 7-year-old adopted son. So remember that. After Gloria tells Sarah's mom that she can't watch her anymore, Sarah's mom reaches out to her and is like, listen, are you okay? Like, is everything okay? Tell me what happened. Like, is there anything that I can do for you? And Gloria tells her something chilling. She tells Sarah's mom that one day she comes inside and she finds Tim in the corner facing the wall, shivering, crying, snot pouring out of his nose. He is absolutely petrified and whimpering like a child. And Gloria is like, what is wrong with you? What is going on? Like, are you good? Then looks over in the corner and there's just one shirt hanging up, just one random shirt. It's a red shirt and it's hanging up in the corner. She looks at the shirt, she looks at him, and she said, what is going on? And he goes, that shirt is possessed. That shirt is evil. At this point, Gloria is like, okay, we are done with this. You are done playing with the Ouija board. You are going to the doctor. You need to be put on medication. This is absolutely insane. So she takes him to the doctor, and of course he refuses to be on medication. So fast forward later on, it's fall now, and Gloria gets a secretary job, and her secretary job is only during school hours, so while her kids are in school. And one day she is at her job, and normally she takes her lunch break at the same time every single day, but a woman had come up to her and asked her if she could switch her and she could take her lunch break 30 minutes earlier and she could take hers 30 minutes later. So Gloria agrees. But while Gloria is gone, Tim calls the office and he says, you need to get home now. I brought the kids home from school. They aren't feeling well. Get home quickly. Well, she obviously wasn't there, and this was the 80s where no cell phones existed. So she didn't get the message until she got back to the office. So she's freaking out at this point and she's like, oh my God, like what's wrong with my kids? And she rushes home. And this is where I'm going to give you the trigger warning again. Please do not watch this if you are sensitive, because this is gruesome. What Gloria walked into, a mother should never, no one should ever have to experience this ever. Every single person in the house had been unalived, the children and Tim. I'm going to spare you the nitty-gritty details on here. I might do it on my YouTube. It's very hard to hear. It's hard to tell, honestly, but I'll give you some of them. Basically, a shiny object was used in order to first take the life of the youngest daughter. And the same thing with the two boys. The only thing is that the hearts were out, and he took a bite out of all of the hearts. And the shirt that he was wearing, you guessed it, was the red shirt that was hanging up. Then did something to himself that a coroner saw and actually quit after 42 years of being a coroner because of this situation. He himself 6 times in the to put it in and take it out and then do that 6 times, that's not humanly possible. This is so heart-wrenching. They actually saw Gloria about 35 years later, and like Sarah and her mom did, at a McDonald's, and as soon as they saw her, she dropped to the ground, started crying. This is 30 years later, mind you, and screamed, he took my babies! He took my babies! That just almost made me cry. They actually had to take her to the hospital. They had to call an ambulance that day, and that was 35 years later. So this poor woman, I can't even fathom. I guess that also Sarah and her mom were driving like past houses one day, and Sarah had no idea what house it was, and she looked over at a house as they were driving past, and she looks at her mom and she goes, something is radiating off that house and it is not good. Like, that house is scary. And her mom goes, that's the house. That is the house that happened in. And she had no idea. Let me know what you guys think happened in the comments. Do you think that he was just mentally ill, or do you think that like something actually possessed him, that there's something seriously wrong with him? Because I don't know. Either way, this story was the worst story I've ever heard in my entire life. So I'm sorry if this was too much for you guys. You guys can always be honest with me and let me know in the comments. It will not hurt my feelings. I want to make sure that you guys feel safe watching my stories and comfortable. And if this was just too much, please let me know, and then I won't even put it, the longer version, on my. As always, you guys are so important to me. You mean the world to me. Thank you so much. Sarah will be reading these comments, so drop any comments that you want to ask her, any questions or anything like that. She will be reading them. Other than that, I hope you guys have an incredible night. I am so sorry if this ruined your night. Normally I say have a spooky night. Tonight I'm just gonna say a prayer for this woman, because she needs all the prayer she can get, even to this day, I am sure. I will also not be promoting anything in this video because it is not appropriate. So I love you guys. I will see you in the next one.
I am so nervous to make this video. Hello, I'm terrified to announce this to the world. However, I am being forced against my will to say this. But I can see angels and demons and other supernatural beings. Let's talk about it. So this night, here we are. So story time. In November of 2024, I was texting my brother about Thanksgiving. He had made the decision not to come to Thanksgiving, and I, being his little sister, was annoying him about the fact that he had missed 2 Thanksgivings. Anyway, long story short, I was being a menace. I was telling him that he's rude, whatever, yada yada. And I was doing it on purpose to kind of like ruffle his feathers, as sisters do. And he was texting me back. We kind of were getting into it. And all of a sudden, I felt like I wasn't talking to my brother anymore. I felt like I was talking, and this is going to sound really crazy, I felt like I was talking to an ancient being. Stick with me. I'm not crazy. So anyway, I started to get a little bit freaked out by it, and I was kind of just reading the messages again, like trying to discern, honestly, what was happening, like where was the disconnect. So I'm looking at my phone, and all of a sudden I'm sitting in my dining room, and I'm staring at my phone, texting my brother, and all of a sudden I look up, and when I look up, I am inside of my brother's room. My brother lives states away from me, so that's impossible. I've never been to his house, but I could describe every single aspect of his bedroom, down to like the color of the laundry that was on the bed, and where the windows, and I mean, I could draw it. And all of a sudden I see him, my brother, and I'm standing in front of him in this vision or whatever is happening to me. Or astral projection, I don't know. I'm standing in front of him, and I see 2, that's my dog, don't be scared. I see 2, what I know to describe as demons, I guess. They're completely wrapped around my brother like snakes, but they were black, big, like this, like big, thick anaconda type, wrapped all the way around both sides of his body. They were black, and they had black, hard looking scales, like a black snake mixed with a little bit of like a lizard. Speaking of lizard, when I looked up, once I saw them and I was just kind of like figuring out what I was looking at, their heads were right here next to my brother's ears, and they were whispering into his ears as he was texting me, and I knew he was texting me. And then in that moment I knew that he was texting me what they were feeding him, which is, I know this has never happened to me, okay? I'm just as shocked as you are. Anyway, once I saw them, they kind of noticed that I was there, and they went from talking to him, they looked straight at me and just made eye contact with me and started smiling like this. Like this evil smile. And then telepathically they told me, you're not talking to him, you're talking to us. And then they started laughing. And then I felt fear. I'd become completely over. I mean, I was horrified. It was just extremely real. I knew that my brother has been going through some things, and I knew in that moment that this was why. Anyway, so after that, it's like that vision stayed in my mind, and I was able to go back and look at it again. And the more that I would look at it, the more that I could figure out what I just knew what the demons were, like what types of spirits they were. I all of a sudden was aware that there were like many more demons, what they refer to as legion, in his room, like around him, and I could understand the different rankings of the demons, and some were just higher, like more like general level, and some were just very basic level demons. And I had never had this knowledge before. Okay, I'm one of those people who grew up Christian, going to church with my parents because they made me. I would read my Bible because that's what I was taught I was supposed to do. I prayed. I did not live a single day of my life for Jesus, that's for sure. So this came as it was a shocking experience for me, to be honest. And it definitely changed my entire life. So after that vision, my entire life changed. I remember a few weeks after that, I was rocking my daughter to sleep in her rocking chair one night, and I literally heard the voice of God he asked me pretty much, now that you've seen, pretty much, he asked me if I wanted to see more of the supernatural realm. And very naively, not knowing what that would entail, I said yes. And I think if you say yes to God, you should probably understand the question before you say yes. Because from that moment forward, it was as if the veil completely was ripped. And I now can see demons operating in people. I can see angels operating, and I can see angels flying around. I can see angels with people. I can see people's spiritual gifts. And I, for the longest time, well, really for 6 months, I thought I was losing my mind. I didn't tell anybody. I was terrified that, like, I don't know. People were going to think I'm crazy. But anyway, so anyway, long story short, I started freaking out. I started praying, like, what's happening? Please let me know that I'm not crazy. Please let me know that there are other people out there that are experiencing this. Like, who can I talk to about it? And so one of the first people that he led me to, God, Jesus, was Phoenix, from Phoenix. He's here on TikTok, and he is wild. Whether you believe it or not, if you saw it, you'd believe it. And I believe it. So Phoenix taught me a lot kind of about the spiritual realm, and kind of like what I was seeing. And then I actually was privileged to have a call with him a month or two ago, and anyway, changed my life. Anyway, the more that this was happening, the more I had to rely on Jesus to literally teach, like, walk me through it, the Holy Spirit. And I'm changed forever. I was a Christian before, but I know Jesus now. Like, there's very much a difference. I want to say, if you hate Christians, so do I. I think Christians are the worst. I think they're the most hypocritical people in the world. They love to tell you everything that's wrong with you most of the time, and not in a nice way. Yeah, I just had a really bad experience with Christians my whole life. And I don't follow religion anymore. I know Jesus. I serve Jesus. I love Jesus. Jesus Christ is Lord. And he changed my life. And I'll tell you kind of what happened after that. In every aspect of my life, he kind of supernaturally fixed / had to break first. But it's this whole big, long story. And I'm really shy to talk about this kind of stuff. But he pretty much told me that I have to make this video or I'm not allowed to post any more TikToks. So I made it, okay? Pray for me.
This is a terrifying story about a mimic. New Year high. I usually talk about spooky, scary stuff, and not so recently I opened an email where anyone who finds this page would be able to send in their ghost stories. And this story is definitely up there with one of the scarier ones I've read. So let's get into it. This story comes from Savannah, who starts off this whole email by telling me this all started when her and her friend Faith were watching scary YouTube videos at her house. When it was time for Faith to go home, Savannah asked Faith, "Hey, do you want me to walk you to your car?" And what Savannah's house looks like in my mind is a walkout ranch. Specifically because she says there's a long driveway down to where Faith's car is parked in the grass. So Savannah and Faith walk down this driveway, get to Faith's car, Faith gets in, and Savannah goes back inside. And Savannah in this email specifically says that she made sure to be inside before Faith left because the videos that they had just watched together really freaked her out. And maybe 30 seconds pass before she gets a call from Faith, who's still parked at the end of her driveway. And Faith asks, "Are you still standing at the top of the driveway?" And when Savannah told Faith, "No, I ran back inside before you even started your car because the videos freaked me out," Faith says back, as she was pulling out of the driveway and pulling onto the street, she looked back up and saw Savannah standing there. So she rolled her window down and was calling out to her. And Faith asks whoever that was, "Hey, why are you still standing there?" And Faith obviously did not get a response. And Savannah's friend also mentions that Savannah's face of the one that was standing at the top of the driveway was kind of red, and it looked like there was paint all over her face. But Faith continued to say, but I don't know because it was dark out and I couldn't really see. And that night, Savannah could not sleep. A couple weeks later, Savannah's on a walk with her brother, and their mom calls Savannah and asks what she wants. To which she obviously replies, what are you talking about? And her mom says, you've been calling me from your room for the past 10 minutes. What do you need? And obviously she was not home. Then a few days after this, Savannah's grandma says that she heard Savannah's mom calling her, the grandma, up to her bedroom, and when the grandma peeked in, Savannah's mom was sleeping. But that is unfortunately not where it ends. Savannah mentions that she does live in Florida, and during Hurricane Helene, Savannah and her friends were all out sitting on her porch watching the rain come down. And they decided to download a ghost app and try to talk to ghosts. And Savannah says that they were getting some pretty weird responses, but nothing scary, until Faith, the one that saw that thing at the top of her driveway, jumps up and says, did you guys hear that? And ran inside of Savannah's house. And that clearly freaked everyone out, so they all followed Faith inside. And when they asked her what was going on, Faith looked like she was gonna cry. And Faith says that she heard a little girl's voice say hello. One of their other friends suggests, hey, why don't we get back on the ghost app and see if that little girl responds? And the app started saying some really weird stuff. Words like burning, fire, dead, escape, kill. So Savannah looks up if there were any fires in their town. And there was. In 1959, in this town, a man burned a hotel down, and when he was interrogated about it, the police had gotten a tip from someone that said this guy was offered $20,000 to burn this hotel down, and when they asked the suspect, he denied it. Savannah concludes this whole email by saying that she does not think it's a coincidence that the app was saying the things that it was, and they found out about the crime. And I do just want to make note that she did send me the newspaper clipping of this happening in 1959. I'm not going to include that because there's just too much information about her in this story where I don't feel comfortable posting her little town too. And at that point, there'd be a lot of people. If you guys have been following for a long time, pause on the story. You know that sometimes when I'm filming, I hear a little, and I just heard it. I don't know if I'll have to check if it's on here. But anyways, that's gonna do it for me. Stay tuned for my ghost stories.
I swear Mexican grandmas are not afraid of anything, not even La Llorona. So I'm sure some people still do this in Mexico, but this story took place like a long time ago, and this guy says that his grandmother used to go to the river to wash all the clothes. Now, she had a really bad habit of getting up like at 4 or 5 in the morning because she wanted to get the perfect spot. In case you didn't know, if you got there too late, you might have to wait because that river would be filled with women like washing all the clothes. Some women would go to the river and not get in the river, but just wash the clothes on the side. However, he says that his grandmother was the type to get in that river like all the way up to her waist and just start washing all the clothes. So it was 5 in the morning and the grandmother got up. She was gonna go to the river to wash some clothes. And mind you, she had never had a problem going there by herself. Everything was always normal. So the grandmother is in the river and she's facing the rock on the edge where she's cleaning her clothes, and her back is facing towards like the rest of the river. And as she's washing her clothes, she starts to hear from behind her, and then she hears like the loudest screaming pain, but she says that she hears it far away. And as we all know, if you hear La Llorona far away, that means she's close, and if you hear it close, that means she's far away. He says that even though his grandmother was like the strongest person that he knew, she did get scared in that moment, but she was like, oh hell no, I need to wash clothes, like I'm gonna ignore this, I'm gonna keep going. And she kept washing her clothes. She says that a few moments later, she started to hear how the water behind her started moving, almost as if something was getting close to her. And she knew that La Llorona was standing right behind her. And then she heard it again, the same thing, like, ay, mis hijos, like, but like she knew she was standing behind her. But this time, the grandmother actually responded to her. She tells her, ahorita no estés chingando, o me vas a ayudar o te largas. Fucking cat. And for my non-Spanish speakers, the grandma told La Llorona, don't fucking bother me right now. You're gonna help me wash this clothes or you get the hell out of here. The grandma then says that La Llorona behind her just felt like she had stayed very still. And mind you, Grandmother was terrified, but she never turned back. Even when she cussed La Llorona out, she never turned back to look at her. She actually kept washing her clothes because she was terrified, and she's like, I'm not looking back. I'm gonna keep washing. I just cussed her out. I don't know what's about to happen. So the grandmother said that after a while, after her continuing to wash that clothes with the corner of her eye, she can see like a silhouette just going down the river and away from her. The way I would have died on the spot, because what the heck?
Let's talk about La Llorona. If you're new here, hi. I usually talk about some pretty scary stuff, and recently I sat down with my friends. They were telling me their ghost stories, and this one might take the cake. So if you don't know who I'm talking about, she is also known as the Weeping Woman in English, and she is a very famous figure in Latin American and Hispanic folklore. If you still don't know who I'm talking about, I would highly encourage you to do research on her, because I'm not going to go through her story of how she became La Llorona, because it would just take up too much time. I just want to get this out of the way too. I fully believe this story. So let's get into it. Just for some basic context, my friend's parents lived in the middle of nowhere in central Mexico, and his dad particularly worked on the avocado farms, which means he was up very, very, very early before the sun rose. And on this particular morning, his dad was getting his truck ready to go to work when he starts hearing this faint crying in the distance. The direction that the sound was coming from was also in the direction of their neighbor, so he just thought it was her crying because she had a lot of health problems, and I guess it was pretty usual to hear her crying about these health problems. So on his next trip inside, he was telling his wife, I think we need to go check in on her. I hope everything's okay, but she's crying again. But when his dad walks back outside, he realizes that he doesn't hear the noise coming from his neighbor's house anymore. And instead, he hears it all the way on the other side. And my friend said in that instant, his dad knew it was La Llorona because it had shifted. So immediately his dad's like, I need to get my truck ready to go. So he goes inside, he tells his wife, I hear her outside, she's crying, I don't want her to come near us, can you help me get my truck ready? She says absolutely not, and then he's really scrambling. And his dad says that every time he would come in and out of the house, the crying would be in a different place, but it would be getting closer and closer and closer. And it eventually was so close that his dad was like, I cannot make another trip because she is here. On this last trip, he goes and he runs to his truck, gets in, shut the door, goes to start the truck, and he realizes that his keys are inside the house. So he sits there and contemplates for a second before opening the door and running inside. And as he's coming back out to his truck, speed walking, he realizes that there are no sounds. There are no crickets, no chickens, no roosters, no nothing. And right as he realizes that there are no sounds, he says he felt like someone grabbed the back of his neck. And at this point, his whole body is covered in chicken skin, and he cannot move. And then he hears her scream. And we're not talking about any old scream, right? This scream is so loud and piercing that you feel it in your chest. And fearing for his life, he starts praying the rosary backwards. And I did have to ask why his dad was praying the rosary backwards, and he said that it essentially makes her go away. And that's exactly what happened. So he started to be able to move again, raced to his truck, got in, put the keys in, stood there for a second, and he could hear the crying again in the distance. But he started his truck and just went to work. So what's particularly interesting about this story is the fact that it happened probably 40 plus years ago. And in my opinion, it is way scarier than anything I've ever learned about this woman, anything I've ever seen, like a movie about this woman, because there are so many misconceptions about La Llorona. I also don't know what I would do if I heard crying in the distance as I'm getting ready for work and I'm having to get my car ready to go to work. But anyways, that's gonna do it for me. Stay tuned for more ghost stories.
Okay, I got you. But put your big girl panties on because this one is terrifying. This story didn't personally happen to me, but I have to share it with you all because it is one of the scariest stories I have ever heard. I'm also going to preface this by saying I can't give exact locations or name of patients, but this also happened in the Appalachia region. So one of my really good friends, we will call him Bob, was working as a paramedic. The dispatcher was like, we just got a call. We need you to run out to this house. The patient wasn't saying anything. they were just breathing really heavy on the other end of the phone. So Bob was like, okay, just some heavy breathing on the other end of the phone, but anytime there's a call, they have to go respond. I mean, this person could have been in such respiratory distress that they really needed medical help. They pull up to the house. It's this super long driveway, and it's actually a big, massive home. But he said as soon as he pulled up, it just didn't feel right. Like, even though the house was huge, it had been like run down. Like there was a lot of weeds in the front yard. The grass was super overgrown, and there was an in-ground pool, but the pool had been drained of all the water, and there was like weeds and stuff coming up through the cement of the pool. Bob and his partner go inside the home. Everything is dark. The only thing that's lit up inside the house is a TV, and it's not like a new flat screen TV. It's one of those old box TVs, and it's on just like the white static. He's immediately creeped out, but he's like yelling for the patient, like, hello, EMS here, someone called out, labored breathing, hello. Nobody answers. So they kind of start searching the house to find the patient. Bob and his partner walk upstairs, and they hear a door in the hallway creak open very slowly. This frail little lady is in one of those little electric wheelchairs with like the little bloop, bloop, bloop. And she just slowly comes out of this door, but she doesn't say anything. They're like, ma'am, EMS here, are you okay? How can we help you? She doesn't say a peep. She reaches into her jacket pocket and pulls out a note that says, help, he has a gun. This is when Bob actually starts panicking, and he was like, this is becoming too much for us and we need police backup. Bob said he was going to try to pick up the little old lady out of her electric wheelchair to take her downstairs and get her to safety. But as soon as him and his partner started to do that, he heard noise coming from another bedroom upstairs. It was at this time Bob made the decision, we've got to go get backup. Like, we need additional help or we're all going to get hurt. Him and his partner speed outside to get back into the truck. And as they were running outside towards the truck, they heard one of the bedroom windows open and a man yelling at them to get the heck off of their property. This is the craziest part though. Bob gets back in his truck, starts to leave the driveway to get to safety, calls police. Police are dispatched to the house. Nobody's there. The house had been foreclosed on years ago, and nobody lived at that residence. I'm like, Bob, you are making this up. He's like, Sydney, no, I swear to God, I know what I saw. There was a lady in there. There was a man, possibly with a gun, because I heard noise coming from another bedroom, and he was shouting at me as I was leaving the property. So, I don't know, but it still gives me chills. It still terrifies me. Let me know what you think about this story in the comments, and if you want to hear more spooky stories, then follow along. I got you. I think this is the most terrifying story I've ever heard. One of my old high school friends just called me, and I actually had to pull the car over because she told me a story that she wants me to share with you guys that has me absolutely floored. She said that her and a couple of her girlfriends went to a cabin outside of Banner Elk, North Carolina, which is in the Appalachian Mountains. They were staying at her friend's family cabin out there, and again, this is a family cabin, but they rent it out and let other family members and friends use it. She said the cabin was really quaint and cozy. There was 2 bedrooms downstairs and like a kitchen, living room area, and then there was a loft upstairs that you have to climb like a ladder to get up to. The first night they just hung out. They were drinking some wine, gossiping, catching up with one another, that kind of thing. And she said everyone went to bed. So 2 girls slept in one room, 2 girls slept in the other room, and they just left the loft open. She said in the middle of the night she couldn't sleep because she woke up and was absolutely freezing. She walked out into the living room area just to check like the heater or whatever, and it said it was set to 72 degrees and the thermostat read 72. But she was so cold she could see her breath. She ended up just putting on like a bunch of extra sweatshirts and found some extra blankets in the closet and went back to her room and fell asleep. The next day they woke up and they're just kind of like drinking their coffee, looking around the cabin, and they find this like guest book that was sitting at the entryway of the cabin. Next to the guest book was like a Polaroid camera that they could use like whenever family would come and stay. They would write like a little note, whatever, take a Polaroid picture and leave it in the book. She said they're like looking through it and her friend's like, oh yeah, this is my uncle so-and-so and these are old friends from like wherever. But then they got to one page and there was this picture of a guy that her friend did not recognize. And she's like, I don't know who this guy is. And the only message he wrote is, I love it. I wish I could stay here forever. The other odd thing is in the picture, it was like a selfie picture that he took with the Polaroid, and he was missing his index finger. So he was just like, hi, but the index finger was missing. The friend was like, this is not someone that we know. Like, so she takes a picture of the Polaroid picture and like the handwriting and sends it to her mom and is like, who is this guy? The mom had no idea. The mom was like, I honestly have no clue who that is. The friend was like a little uneasy by this, but she's like, okay, I mean, I don't know, weird, but whatever. Nothing strange happened the rest of the day, and then they go to bed that night, and this is when things get really strange. She wakes up in the middle of the night again, freezing. This time she wakes up her friend, and she was like, why is it so cold in here? Her friend was like, I don't know, you're right, it's absolutely freezing. They get up to get more blankets again, and then they start hearing footsteps in the loft above. They are obviously freaking terrified at this point. They run out of their room and run across the living room into the other girls' rooms to wake them up. They're like, something crazy is going on. We're hearing footsteps up in the loft. It is freezing in here. So they all just kind of huddle together and stay hidden in that room together. One of the girls is like, we need to call the cops right now. But then the girl who owned the cabin was like, no. It could just be a raccoon. It could be anything like that. So let me just peek out and see if I see anything. So she opens the door and is able to kind of like look up into the loft area, and she doesn't see anything. As soon as the sun comes up, they work up the nerve to get out of the bedroom, and one of the friends decides she's going to go up and just see what's up in the loft. There's nothing up there. Nothing seems out of place. She's like looking around. She doesn't see that anything's fallen or that anything's, out of the ordinary. But then there's a window, and on the inside of the window are 4 fingerprints sliding down the glass. She climbs back down the ladder. She is screaming. She is freaking out because she said she saw them appear and slide down the glass. They waste no time. They just grab their things, get in the car, and go home. I'm still sitting here just like, I just cannot believe this story. What do you guys think about this? What do you think it could be? Drop it in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories, just follow along.